Hello and welcome to this online service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. Our mission is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Lexi Lott, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please let us know you're here by posting a comment here on Facebook or YouTube, or by going to sunnyhill.org and clicking on the button that says New to Sunnyhill. We would love to let you know how you can connect with the congregation even during this time when our building is closed. Our opening words were written by Marilyn Sewell. Come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this community where we can dream and believe in those dreams. Come into this holy space where we remember who we are and how we want to live. Come now and let us worship together.
Please join us in saying the words for lighting our chalice.
Our individual energies combine to spark the flame of truth. May we each draw strength for the other, and, like the chalice, may we be bathed in the fire of commitment to social justice, equity, and peace.
Good morning, Sunnyhill. I'm Joe Shaughnessy, and I'm here to urge you to sign a petition that would help restrict solitary confinement in the Allegheny County Jail. This initiative would put the issue up for vote in the May 2021 election. As detailed in the lawsuit filed by advocates against the Allegheny County Jail in October 2020, people inside the jail are routinely subjected to long stretches in solitary confinement as essentially punishment for having a mental illness or drug abuse problem. In some cases, it can be for as long as hundreds of days consecutively. Our ballot initiative will virtually end this barbaric practice currently deployed by jail authorities in lieu of providing actual mental health care. The Allegheny County Jail has some of the highest rates of suicide in America. There is also a ballot initiative to ban no-knock warrants in the city of Pittsburgh. It's also called Breonna's Law, named after the African-American woman who was shot by police in her home while she was sleeping in bed. This petition is for City of Pittsburgh residents only. We have until February 15th to submit petitions. Right now we have just about 27,000 signatures, but we're looking for another 10 to 13,000. And I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who's already signed. You can sign the petitions by visiting our porch at 505 Lyndhurst Avenue, Mount Lebanon, 15216. It will be on our porch from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day until midday, February 15th. If those times don't work for you or you can't get to our house, please contact me and I can bring it to you. If you live outside the South Hills, you can visit apa.pgh.org/ballot and search for a location. The APA base is located on the north side at 841 California Avenue, 3rd floor, Pittsburgh, PA 15212. The parking lot can be entered across an alley just right next door to the large post office facility on the north side. Thank you for your consideration.
The song that Mary is about to lead us in singing, Where You Go, I Will Go, comes from the book of Ruth in the Bible. The book of Ruth, as you may or may not know, tells the story of Elimelech and Naomi, an Israelite couple who move with their 2 sons from their native land because of famine and a lack of jobs. They move to the land of Moab, a place that tends to be hostile toward Israelites, but which has better economic opportunities. The family prospers in Moab, and the sons marry 2 Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. Eventually, Elimelech and the 2 sons die, leaving only the women of the family, Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-law. And Naomi decides to move back to her native Bethlehem, and her daughters-in-law are left with the difficult choice of either going with her or staying in their own native land of Moab. Orpah makes the choice to stay, which was the safer and perhaps more sensible choice to make. But Ruth chooses to leave her native land and the comfort of friends and her family of origin in order to accompany her mother-in-law to this faraway land where Ruth will be treated as an outsider. Ruth makes this choice to follow Naomi as an act of solidarity. She chooses to give up whatever privilege and comfort she has in her native land of Moab in order to journey with her mother-in-law, Naomi, an elderly widow who has lost everything she's ever had. As we sing the words of Ruth today, we do so as our own statement of solidarity with all those who are oppressed and marginalized. And we promise to cross the borders of our own culture and comfort in order to side with those who need our love, our support, and our power.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
Once upon a time, a mother and her daughter were carrying bags of food to a neighboring village where people were hungry and had no food of their own. The two had to travel a great distance, which made them very tired, so they stopped to get some rest. As they sat down, they heard a voice call out to them. "Hello," said the voice. The two travelers looked around, but saw no one. "Hello," said the voice again. "Look over here, by the rock." The mother and her daughter looked over by the rock, and there they saw a thorn bush. The two looked at the thorn bush for a moment, and then they looked at each other. "I believe that thorn bush is talking to us," said the little girl. "I'm not a thorn bush," said the voice. "I'm a beautiful apple tree. If you like, you may sit a while and admire my beauty." "If you don't mind my saying so," said the little girl, "you do not look anything like an apple tree, and you do look exactly like a thorn bush." "Silly child," said the voice. "I'm the most beautiful apple tree in all the land. Please feel free to sit and enjoy my beauty." "Are you quite sure you're an apple tree?" asked the mother. "Yes," said the voice from the thorn bush, "I am quite sure." "Then perhaps you can help us," said the mother. "You see, we are carrying food to a neighboring village where people are hungry. Since you're an apple tree, you could give us some apples to take to the people who have nothing to eat." "No," said the voice from the thorn bush. "No?" asked the mother. "Why not? The people are very hungry. They don't have any food at all. They would love some of your apples." "No," repeated the voice from the thorn bush. "You see, I don't have any apples right now." "Oh," said the mother. "That's too bad." After a moment she said, "Well, we must be going," and the mother and daughter stood up and continued on the road to the village. After the two had traveled many miles, they became very tired once again and decided it was time to stop and rest. They had not been sitting long when they heard another voice. "Hello?" said the voice. The mother and daughter looked around a while before they noticed a small man sitting next to a rock. The man was dressed in very stylish and expensive clothes. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not a bad man. I won't hurt you. In fact, I'm a very good man." "You're a good man?" asked the mother uncertainly. "Oh, yes," he said. "I'm a very, very good man. I read the Holy Book every day for hours and hours. I pray each morning when I rise and pray again in the evening when I go to bed." "Are you quite sure you're a good man?" asked the mother. "Oh, yes," he replied. "I'm quite sure." "Well then, perhaps you will help us," said the mother. "My daughter and I are carrying food to a neighboring village where people are hungry. We're very tired from walking for so long. Would you please help us carry these bags to the village so that the people there will have something to eat?" "No," said the little man. "I'm a good man, but if I were to help you carry those bags, I might mess up my nice new clothes. Then I might not look as good. How could anyone know I'm a good man if I don't look good? Sorry, but I can't help you." "Oh," the mother said. "That's too bad." After a moment she said, "Well, we must be on our way," and the two picked up their bags of food and continued on down the road. For a while the two walked in silence. Finally the daughter said to her mother, "I'm confused. Today we've seen a strange plant that claimed to be an apple tree. We also saw a strange little man who claimed to be a good man. But how can we be sure? I mean, how can we tell a real apple tree from a fake one? Or a real good person from a fake one?" "Well," said the mother, "it isn't always easy to tell the difference between something that is real and something that is fake. But it seems to me, if you want to call yourself an apple tree, then you should give the world some apples. And if you want to call yourself a good person, then you should give this world some loving kindness and a helping hand. After all, it is by our fruits that we are known."
The song we're about to hear, "We Are," by Issei Barnwell of the singing group Sweet Honey in the Rock, was presented at last year's UUA General Assembly, performed by Dr. Barnwell and a choir comprised of UUs from around the country. This song is the last in a suite that began with the lyric, "It's midnight, a dark and fear-filled midnight. Lord, it's a midnight without stars." Dr. Barnwell wanted to create a complete circle of experience, and so she wrote this song with the lyric, "For each child that's born, a morning star rises." This phrase is meant to establish hope, and it defines the uniqueness of each one of us. No matter what our race or culture or ethnicity, each one of us has been called into being and are the sum total of all who came before us. In the composer's words, each and every one of us stands atop a lineage that has had at its core mothers and fathers and teachers and dreamers and shamans and healers and builders and warriors and thinkers and. So in spite of our uniqueness, we come from and share every experience that humankind has ever had. In this way, we are one.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God, we are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Each week at this time in the service, we share joys and sorrows submitted by members of the congregation. We share both the things that we're celebrating as well as the things that we're mourning, so that they need not be held alone. Joys and sorrows may be submitted from our website, or you can contact me or a member of our staff or pastoral care team directly by email or by phone. After each joy or sorrow that I share, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." A sorrow from Nancy and Randy Bellamy. Nancy is in St. Clair Hospital receiving treatment for a blocked bile duct. The good news is that it is not cancerous and does not seem to be related to the lung tumor that she has had for the past couple of years. But she will still need to undergo further treatment and maybe some rehab before she's able to return home. Nancy cannot receive visitors at this time, but her daughters suggest that Nancy might like to receive some Valentine's Day cards. So if you'd like to send a Valentine to Nancy, I'll put her home address up on the screen, and her family will share those cards with her, though her daughters request that the cards be glitter-free, please. We'll also share that address here in the Facebook comment thread. To Nancy, Randy, and their family, we hold you in our hearts. A joy and a sorrow on behalf of all of us. There is hope in the air as many people have received or are scheduled to receive their COVID-19 vaccinations. At the same time, there's a great deal of frustration that many people are having to struggle to get their shots, and the rollout of the vaccine has been at times chaotic and not always fair or equitable. To all those who are administering, receiving, or trying to receive the vaccinations, we hold you in our hearts. Let us keep in mind these joys and sorrows, as well as those that may be held too closely to be shared at this time. Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Breathing is something we tend to take for granted. Breathing in, breathing out, again and again. We do it without thinking, autonomically. We enter a room and breathe in. We take a seat and breathe out. Waking or sleeping, moving or sitting, our breath continues, taking in oxygen, moving it to every part of our bodies, sustaining our lives. But in recent months, we have seen how breathing can be threatened by disease, by violence, by willful neglect or malice. How breathing can be threatened by ignorance, by hubris, by active and passive forces of oppression and marginalization. As we breathe in silence in just a moment, let us be fully aware and appreciative of the gift of breath and breathing. May we practice gratitude with each breath we take. May we appreciate and tend to our own breathing. And may we work to ensure that everyone has the right to breathe. Amen.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
When I breathe in,
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace.
when I breathe out,
When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out.
Although we as Unitarian Universalists often talk about celebrating diversity, I don't know that diversity in and of itself is necessarily something for us to celebrate. And I'll tell you why. In a famous study that was released about 14 years ago, Robert Putnam, a professor of political science at Harvard, concluded that diversity actually lowers social trust. He found that those who live in ethnically and racially diverse settings tend to withdraw from collective life, to distrust their neighbors regardless of the color of their skin, to withdraw even from close friends, to expect the worst from their community and its leaders, to volunteer less, to give less to charity. Now, on the other hand, in other studies, researchers from MIT have found that groups that are diverse are actually smarter than those that are more homogeneous. These diverse groups tend to come up with more accurate and well-reasoned results working together than groups that lack diversity. The reason that these diverse groups in the MIT studies are smarter is that they have learned how to step outside their own individual perspectives and to question their own beliefs, especially those beliefs that the beliefs that tend to be invisible unless they're tested by diversity. So diversity was present in both sets of studies, but in the first study, the Putnam study, something was missing. The neighborhoods may have been diverse, but there was little or no interaction across lines of difference, and there was no apparent stated commitment to real equity or justice. The groups in the MIT studies, on the other hand, were all about exploring and engaging diversity as a means toward more just and equitable ends. That's the reason they were formed. Diversity is a fact, a reality, and it offers us a choice. We can either let differences divide and further isolate us, or we can learn how to work together to create something richer and better, something that makes us more than merely the sum of our parts. Diversity does not call us to celebrate our differences as much as it challenges us to examine our worldview, to work toward cultural self-awareness, compassion, curiosity, tolerance for ambiguity, and to bring real courage to the work before us. Diversity is more than anything else a challenge. It challenges us to look deeper than just the surface or appearances of any particular group or situation. One of the mistakes that Unitarian Universalists and other historically white institutions have made over the years is to believe that diversity is or should be our ultimate goal. That once we have created and sustained congregations that at least appear to be diverse, then we will have completed our work for racial justice and racial equity. But diversity cannot be the goal. Diversity may be a byproduct of our work for racial justice, but it is not in and of itself a sufficient goal. The same can be said of any institution, from universities to multinational corporations. Diversity is great and it is important, but achieving diversity does not necessarily mean that we will have done the hard work of justice. I'm not saying that diversity is unimportant or unworthy of us. I'm saying that diversity is hollow and meaningless if it is not accompanied by a deeper commitment to equity and justice. Such a commitment means facing our own racist past and present and doing the restorative and reparative work that is much more difficult than merely adding some more people of color to the mix of students or employees or congregants. In a recent article on this subject, Khalil Gibran Muhammad, a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, noted that in President Obama's 2017 farewell speech, there was no more self-congratulatory praise for a country that gave him a chance to be president. Instead, he acknowledged for the first time the very real threat of racism to our democracy and the contingent nature of racial progress. In a revision to the American Creed, he added, "Equality may be self-evident, but it has never been self-executing." And he listed specific areas where systemic racism needed to be uprooted, which he hadn't done in his State of the Union addresses or inaugural speeches. Obama said in his farewell address, "If we're going to be serious about race going forward, we need to uphold laws against discrimination in hiring and in housing and in education and in the criminal justice system." As it turns out, there is no straight line of progress from Seneca Falls to Selma to Stonewall. People of color, Professor Muhammad says, must continue to pursue leadership roles as the demographics of the nation inexorably change. But they must also reject their personal achievement as the core measure of progress, and instead use history as a tool to measure systemic change. To proceed otherwise is to perpetuate the fantasy of self-deception that Dr. King rejected. The future, Professor Muhammad says, is no longer about firsts. It is instead about the content of the character of the institutions our new leaders will help us rebuild. Let me repeat that statement. The future is no longer about firsts. It is instead about the content of the character of the institutions our new leaders will help us rebuild. And I would say, I would add to that after the past 4 years, there is certainly a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. Barack Obama's presidency and Kamala Harris's vice presidency are without a doubt important and even seismic events in the history of our nation. But these historic firsts are not by themselves enough. What is now required of institutions, including the church, is a shift away from focusing simply on diversity and inclusion toward a focus on working for equity and justice. Diversity and inclusion tend to be about assimilating minority ethnic and racial and economic groups into the dominant, mostly white institutions. Equity and justice tend to be about transforming the institutions themselves. In an article published several years ago in the journal Inside Higher Ed, Dafina Lazarus Stewart, a professor of education at Bowling Green State University, talks about this shift away from diversity and inclusion toward more of an emphasis on equity and justice in this way. Diversity asks, who's in the room? Equity responds, who is trying to get in the room but can't? Whose presence in the room is under constant threat of erasure? Inclusion asks, has everyone's idea been heard? Justice responds, whose ideas won't be taken as seriously because they aren't in the majority? Diversity asks, how many more of any particular minority group do we have this year than last? Equity responds, what conditions have we created that maintain certain groups as the perpetual majority here? Inclusion asks, is this environment safe for everyone to feel like they belong? Justice challenges, whose safety is being sacrificed and minimized to allow others to be comfortable maintaining dehumanizing views? When I first read this article by Stewart, I had one of those aha moments. Of course, efforts merely to increase diversity are not enough. And furthermore, that approach simply has not worked. We are fooling ourselves if we believe that our institutions, including our churches, can be ideologically neutral in this matter. The truth is this: either we are working to advance equity and justice, or we are upholding the status quo of racism and white supremacy. One of our goals as a congregation is, or ought to be, to become as welcoming as we can be to people of various racial and ethnic backgrounds. But we need to be clear about why extending this welcome is important. If our why, our underlying purpose or reason for being as a congregation is, as our mission statement says, to build a just and compassionate community both within and beyond Sunnyhill, then the process of welcoming others is not so much about not offending some particular group. It is not so much about checking boxes on lists of best practices. It is not so much about achieving the appearance of diversity. Rather, being truly welcoming is about building a community of justice and compassion from the ground up, asking hard questions about ourselves and our society, and fundamentally changing and transforming both. In our congregation, we are attempting to work for equity and justice on at least 3 fronts. The first is educating ourselves about systems of oppression through reading and discussing books and films about racial and economic justice, and participating in discussion groups and educational programs like the beloved Conversations program, which you'll hear more about in the weeks and months to come. Second, we are partnering with local organizations here in the Pittsburgh area, such as the Association for Police Accountability and other grassroots organizations, to address real problems in real time with input and leadership from the communities that are actually affected by those problems, and showing up for those communities when called upon to do so. Third, we have committed to an internal review of our congregation's policies and practices to change anything that we're currently doing that tends to perpetuate systems of oppression, many of which might be invisible to most, though not all of us. Efforts on all 3 of these fronts are necessary if we are to live into our mission of building a more just and compassionate community. The work that needs to be done within our community and beyond our community, in our state, in our country, and in our world is no less urgent now than it was prior to January 20th. I know that many of us just want to rest for a while, especially as we're dealing with multiple challenges, including this pandemic that just won't quit. I share that feeling of just wanting to take a break from it all, and small breaks are good and necessary. And like most, if not all of you, I agree that it's a huge relief to see an administration that does look more like America in terms of ethnic and racial diversity, and administration that has done more to advance the common good in 2 weeks than the previous administration did in 4 years. But now is not the time to remove our collective foot from the accelerator of transformation. The engine of justice must continue to be fueled so that we continue moving forward. In the wisdom story that Jen shared with us earlier, the girl asked her mother, "How can we tell a real apple tree from a fake one, or a real good person from a fake one?" Her mother answered, "If you want to call yourself an apple tree, then you should give the world some apples. And if you want to call yourself a good person, then you should give this world some loving kindness and a helping hand. After all, it is by our fruits that we are known." If we want to be a congregation and a community that is truly just and equitable, rather than merely appearing or claiming to be right-minded, then we must continue to do the challenging work of bringing justice and equity into the world, starting right where we are. My hope and my prayer is that we will go about the work of building a just and compassionate community by valuing equity and justice more than we do simply the appearance of diversity and inclusion, and that all of our actions will be informed and inspired by our great love for one another and for all others, that we might begin building the beloved community here and now. May it be so. Amen.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
It's now time for our morning offering. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so in one of two ways. You can go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving and then follow the instructions. Once you get to the drop-down menu, just choose either 2021 Pledge Collections or Non-Pledge Collections. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Just dial that number using your smartphone and follow the instructions. You can also mail a check if you prefer, and you can find our mailing address on our website, sunnyhill.org. Thank you so much for your generosity.
Please join us in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words were written by Kathy Huff. Our time together may have ended, but our connection to each other and this community remains. Together, may we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, live the selfless deed, tread gently upon the earth, and fill the world with compassion. Until we meet again, blessed be, and go in peace.